Hey guys, happy Friday. I'm super excited. Happy Freedom Friday. Today is Friday, September 20, here we go. Where are we at? 28th, 2019. I knew it was the end of the month. Welcome to the TED Show. Super excited to have my friend and podcast guru, Danny Ozment, on the show. So let us know you can hear us and see us. That's always my favorite thing right there. Give us a thumbs up and a heart because you don't want to miss what Danny has to talk about. I'm fascinated. I'm going to learn. Hey, Philip Madison, what's going on, buddy? So send us a heart, give us a thumbs up, let us know you can hear us and see us. Hey, Tyler, so that's a good morning, so that must mean he can hear us and see us, so that's good. Yeah, Tyler did it. All right, welcome. I'm super excited to have you on. Podcasting is fascinating to me, and you have been doing it for a long time and a pro at it. So I think everybody's going to benefit from the wisdom that you're going to impart today. No pressure. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you. Everybody likes the origin story. They want to know who is Danny, where he came from. You obviously didn't grow up and had a podcasting G.I. Joe.
Exactly.
You had other things you wanted to do. So give us a little background.
Well, I've only been podcasting and working in podcasting for about 4 or 5 years. If that's a long time, I guess in podcasting terms,
I think that's very long.
So I grew up in the Mid-Atlantic, born in Richmond, Virginia, and I got asked this question in a podcast interview with one of my clients the other day, and I was like, she was asking me something about, well, you're podcasting. People say nowadays you either go to a therapist or you have a podcast, right? I don't really have that. I had a boring upbringing, really. I had the nuclear family, parents stayed married, 2.5 kids. I had a grandfather that started a trust for me so I could go to college, a college fund, and didn't get saddled with student loan debt.
Nice.
I think the weird thing about me that a lot of people don't know in my current field is that I have a master's degree in conducting. So the guy that gets up in front of the orchestra.
Wait, in conducting?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by
Yeah,
that.
Dr. Phillips Center, yeah.
Who knew? All right, so I have a question about that. I
Sure.
don't want to detract, but do people really pay attention to the conductor?
Yes.
Okay, so talk to me about all of the moves. I'm sorry, this is going to go off topic just for a second, but talk to me about the moves. I'm fascinated by how they do this, and I know that people already know their music.
Yeah.
But they really do pay attention to you. How do you drive that?
Yeah.
What do all these moves mean?
Well, so conductors
I'm fascinated.
usually, now I started out, my undergrad degree was in music education, so I was going to be a music teacher, and then I got a master's degree in the art of conducting.
Wow.
So at the early stages, your elementary teachers, your middle school, high school, even some of your college professors that are teaching musicians, as a conductor, they are teaching them how to be musicians for the most part. But then the conductor's role is essentially to be there and keep everyone together, okay? So if you think of the conductor as like the focus point that the music comes through. If you have,
That's cool.
The Orlando Phil has 60, 70, 80 people on stage trying to play something all at the same time, the first role of the conductor is to keep the time. Keep the tempo and move everything along and keep everyone coordinated. But then the conductor is also, through their hands and, if they're doing something sharp like that, they're communicating to the orchestra, play this with a heavy attack or something like that. Or if it's smooth, it's, they want it played legato or softer, and they can control loud and soft with their hands. And that's really all it is. It's like the conductor is the video game controller of the orchestra.
So sometimes I pay attention to the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
Like because I'm fascinated by their sharp's a good word.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the real word you're supposed to use. Their sharp movements.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also amazed that, because in my mind I was like, well, don't all these people already know their music and where they come in? But it's not really about that. Of course they do.
But yes, they're, I was a singer and also a percussionist.
You sing too?
Yeah. That was, we'll get there.
Okay.
Maybe you want the origin story. So the percussionist that's sitting in the back of the orchestra and you're playing something Beethoven, right? That percussionist might have to sit there and count 60, 70 bars of music. They might lose their place, or they might, by the time you reach the point of becoming professional, they know what's going on. They know the piece like the back of their hand. They know where to come in. But the conductor is also cueing them. is also saying, okay, now is the time for you.
Fascinating.
Just in case, just in case. So there's many different roles that the conductor plays.
But you sing too?
Yeah. So
what? See, no R&D here, people.
Yeah.
I'm just
What happened with the conducting thing was I realized, I went and worked in the nonprofit arts world for 10 years after getting that degree. And what I realized is that to become a professional conductor, that being solely my job, maybe with only one or two orchestras or ensembles or whatever, I'd need to be 50, 60 years old before you get the dream job.
Super old like me.
There are not a lot of opportunities, and the people, once they get those opportunities, they hold on to them until they're sitting on a stool like this on stage, ready to fall over, and they're 80-some years old. So I realized, maybe I should try something different. And I'd always dabbled in recording and playing around with microphones and software and recording different things. And so I started a recording studio. Right about that time, 2008 or so, my daughter was born, Elena. Elena's 11 now, but she suffered a brain injury during birth. And the result was cerebral palsy and all the things that go along with that, lots of doctor's appointments and things like that. We needed more flexibility.
Sure.
So I had the job that was easier to get out of or do something different, and I started this recording studio. And this is where the singing comes in, because in college I had participated in what we call now pop a cappella, right? A cappella groups. I'm sure UCF probably has 3 or 4. I've been out for so long I haven't counted like what the groups are doing. But so groups like Pentatonics.
Yeah, they're amazing.
If you've seen the Pitch Perfect movies.
Yes.
One of my clients in the a cappella recording world was the group that the Pitch Perfect book and then the movies is based on.
Oh, that's cool.
So I did that for 5 or 6 years, and it was fun. Musicians are artists, though, and it's a little frustrating sometimes to run a business that way. And so during the stressful times, like right after my daughter was born, I discovered podcasting. I started listening to several different podcasts that really helped me figure out who I was, helped me deal with the stress, helped me grow. And I was like, this is a really cool thing.
What were some of those? Tell us. What are some of your
big
favorites?
one was Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
Simply
sure.
just because he had so many different people on that had so many different points of view, not dissimilar to your show, that helped me discover things that I'd never even heard of growing up in the Mid-Atlantic, in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia.
It exposed you to things.
Right, it exposed me to things. Chris Ryan is an author. He has a show called Tangentially Speaking, where he does similar things. And that helped me out a lot. I thought, this is really cool. Like, this is a form of media where not, similar to live video, where you can have long conversations, you can have nuanced conversations, you can tell stories, you can really hear from people what they're doing and what they're going through in life. And that blew me away. And I just kind of stuck my toe in and said, actually, to some of the podcasts that I listened to that I enjoyed, I sent emails to people and I said, hey, I love your show, but your sound is really horrible. I think I used the word sucks a number of times.
But people need to hear that, right? They need to hear that.
And I said, I love it. Please let me help you. And I just started doing it for free as like a side thing, because I was like, hey, I'm making money as a music recording engineer, mixing people. People were sending stuff to me. I was in Nashville at the time. And I started doing this for fun, and then realized really quickly that, I can help those people, but then I can also help others. I can help businesses use this for marketing, and then that led to a full-time business, and that's where I am.
How does that work, though? So let's talk about podcasting.
Sure.
I love the journey because I think that's so important. It's not like he woke up one day and he was a podcaster, and I want people to understand that sometimes you've got to kind of go with the flow on the journey. It's going to take you where you're really ultimately supposed to be. I think people they love to listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the number of people who are literally addicted to podcasts, and they listen to them every chance they can get. So it's obviously making an impact in our business world, our social world, pretty much everywhere. But people are afraid, and rightly so, right? Because you don't want to just say, hey, guess what? I want to be a podcaster. And then you have no idea, you have no content, you don't know what you're doing. There are things that you need to consider, and that's what I kind of want you to share with them, because there are businesses out there. When I posted this early on, promoted it on Monday, I had a bunch of people reach out to me and go, I've got a great idea for a podcast. Do you think Danny would talk to me? Yeah. I'm sure Danny's going to talk to you whenever you reach out to him. I have no doubt in my mind, because that's how he is. Yeah. However, I would imagine there's got to be some first questions you're going to ask them. So talk about that.
I mean, what you said about this being a very popular form of media, it is. You can go back to when we were all living in caves.
I was born then.
Yeah. This has been around since then. We've always shared stories orally. We've told stories, we've passed them down. People have always listened to each other. And I think that's why radio has existed for as long as it has, and why podcasts have stayed strong now for the first podcast started 16 years ago now, and this form of media has steadily increased every year, 2 to 5% in terms of the number of people that listen to it. Why is it powerful? First of all, it's powerful because of that relationship that we've always had. In this day and age, it's hard for someone to walk an inch in someone else's shoes, let alone a mile.
Correct.
We get media thrown at us all the time where people argue about something. I mean, I'm sure people have been watching CNN and Fox News a lot this week. They argue about something for 3 minutes and they're expected to get something from that.
Correct.
And they don't. So you get that power because you have someone maybe that's commuting here on I-4 for 45 minutes to their job, and they are lonely. They don't get to spend time maybe with their family as much because they've got to commute. Or you've got someone across the street here in the Chase building that's cleaning the building all night long, and they're by themselves. And the podcast gives those people the opportunity not only to learn something, but also connect with someone else. And that's why they're powerful, because the host, is literally millimeters from someone's brain in the earbuds, and they quickly become friends. If you want to start a podcast, the first thing you need to think about is not the tech, not the tripod that you needed to get for your Facebook Live show. It's, are you committed to being consistent with your communication and interested in communicating consistently to someone else?
Just say that again, because I think I did this presentation last night. We talked about consistency. Consistency to me is king. Content's king. Yeah. You have to commit. So let's say you've got this idea. I want to talk about the clouds that are in the sky for my podcast. Well, I mean, you're going to run out of clouds to talk about, I think.
Hopefully you're a meteorologist.
Hopefully you're, yes, and apparently you don't have to be an expert at anything in order to have any kind of show. Look at me. But I think it's important for people to understand. So you've got an idea. If it's an idea for 1 or 2 shows, you want to get with a professional like Danny, who can kind of guide you through that. Because if you don't have the long-term goal, if you're not sure exactly what you're doing, then you're going to end up frustrated, I think.
This gets back to what I just said. When you start a podcast, it's not a blog. It's not even a YouTube channel where you might throw up a 3-minute video and then come back to it 2 weeks later, and people are still going to subscribe. It's still going to show up in that ecosystem of YouTube, and people are going to find it or they're going to search for it. With a podcast, it's all about a relationship. Yes. It's a long play. Consistency, it compounds, and you have to be there, because once you 2 or 3 weeks in have spent a couple hours with someone, they consider you to be a friend.
Correct.
They trust you, because at that point, if you've spoken about some topic for 2 to 3 hours, you're an expert to them. Yeah. What you're talking about is magic to someone who doesn't do that.
And it resonates with them, right? You're connecting with them.
Right. You're connected.
That's why it's good to know your background. Yeah. because then people like you. I mean, I don't know how you can't like Danny, and then you're going to listen to him.
Yeah.
Once you know
Hopefully.
and you feel connected.
Yeah, I have there's actually a podcaster here in Florida, Glenn the Geek, Glenn Hibbert.
I love the names.
He's the I guess he's the founder of the Horse Radio Network. So he's very active in the horse community here in Florida.
Radio Network.
So they've been around 6, 7, 8 years now. He started out, he wanted to do a daily podcast about horses, and now at this point he's got 8 or 9 shows on his network. So he's a huge podcaster. But he tells this story. There's another podcaster in our network. He's a OG podcaster, Dave Jackson. His show is The School of Podcasting. He's been around forever. He's got 5 or 6 different shows at this point. But Glenn listened to Dave's podcast every Thursday morning, and he just happened to always listen to it in the shower. Okay? And he tells a story about, like, one Thursday Dave had to post his show late, and Glenn got into the shower hoping to turn that podcast on, and Dave wasn't there, and he felt like he'd been betrayed. And that's what happens with a podcast.
Such an important message.
There's this meme that I have in some of my presentations that I give about podcasting, where it's this advertisement mural painted on a wall of some people hanging out. I think they're eating yogurt or something like that. And there's this person sitting on the ground next to this mural eating yogurt, acting like they're part of the thing. And that's literally what a podcast is. I mean, think about it. If you listen to podcasts, you probably know more about that host than a lot of their friends do because of things they've shared.
Well, and podcast, like anybody who's doing any kind of social media on a regular basis, consistent, you're trying to reach an audience. People feel like they know you.
Yeah.
So when you say you're going to be every day, like yesterday, because of the LinkedIn event that we had last night, I didn't do my show. I can't tell you how many messages and text messages I got. What do you mean there's no show today? What's wrong? Is everything all right? I love that, because that means that I have created this audience that is committed to me and committed to the message that my guests give.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when you commit, you need to commit consistently, constantly. So, of course, I'm overdoing it today and doing 4 shows because I felt bad about yesterday. But yeah, I think it's super important what you're talking about. It's and a lot of people have an idea. Like, I've listened to people's ideas about a podcast, and I think they're amazing, but then they don't know how to take the leap. So let's say somebody says, all right, Danny, I've got this amazing idea for a podcast. How does that work? They come to you, and then you go, you know what? You have a great idea. Let's go with the positive.
Right.
Then what's the next step? What do they have to do?
Yeah, and I hate to make this so much like an advertisement for me.
No, but I want people to know.
Come to me. It's there are other.
I try to promote the people who are good to the
sure,
TED show, so you got to talk about you.
So first, you have to be committed. You have to be committed to actually having a conversation and improving communication with whatever community you want to reach, right? And then it's relatively easy. It's similar to doing live video with your iPhone. You need a microphone. There's plenty of microphones out there. I'll name one. I don't want to get too technical, but the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. You can get it off of Amazon. It's like $65. It's a USB microphone, so you can hook it right into your MacBook Pro, or if you happen to be a PC person, you can do the same thing. You can turn on QuickTime, you can turn on GarageBand, you can turn on whatever happens in the PC world. Sorry, I'm an Apple person. Voice recorder, I think is what it's called on Windows, and you can record whatever you want to say. At that point, all you need is a hosting solution. My host of choice is called Libsyn, Libsyn. It's short for Liberated Syndication. They are the OG host of the OG podcast. Like, they've got Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, all the Mike Rowe has his show on there. All the celebrities are on there. You sign up for a $20 a month plan, and you can publish your show through there.
All right, so what is that? So somebody can actually just get like the mic, and they can record, and then do they have to? What do they have to do? What about? I see all this stuff with iTunes.
Yeah.
Here's what I really want to go back to.
That's where it gets a little technical.
So here's the deal. People come to me and they want advice on how to do video. I will give them all the advice in the world. There are certain things that I have learned over time, trial and error, that I would never do, and I see people making the mistake all the time. But somebody can say, I've got an idea, Danny, and I want to implement it, but I really don't want to do that part of it. I just want to do the content.
Yeah.
They can come to you,
Yeah.
or somebody like you, since he's
Right.
very humble. They can come to you, and you can help them with their vision and
Exactly.
take care of the technical side.
Right.
You can help them get on those platforms, make sure they have the right equipment. So all they ever have to do is spout out their wonderful content,
Right.
their idea, their
Yeah.
vision.
There is that solution out there that because unlike YouTube, unlike Facebook Live, podcasting started a little bit before that. So it's a little more convoluted in terms of the tech. But essentially it's publishing, and then you have to list yourself in directories. So Apple, which is now Apple Podcasts, not iTunes. They get mad if you say iTunes because they're trying to get rid of it.
I did not know.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora has it now, TuneIn Radio. Those are all directories essentially, or media channels. So you have to list your podcast in those. If you listen using Apple Podcasts app, that's Apple Podcast directory. If you listen using Overcast or Castbox or some of the other apps that are out there, they're all pulling from Apple because that's the number one source right now. But yes, what I do on a daily basis is I have 30 clients a week that all they want to do is speak into the microphone, and then they send me the file and we take it from there. So
Which I
publishing,
love, right?
It's keeping them doing what they're an expert at is the main difference.
So important.
I have way too many clients that tell me, I'm so happy I came to work with you because I was spending 3 hours a week on this. And what some of those people can do in 3 hours a week triples their revenue in a year.
Are there any clients that you go, or potential clients that you say, wow, you have not fleshed this out. You don't, and then do you send them back into the wild blue yonder until they can figure out what they want to do? I mean, I don't know how many episodes you can do on clouds, right? So I'm just using that as an
I believe in starting ugly, especially with podcasts.
We're
so
totally
done is better than perfect.
I love it. That's awesome.
If I get a launch client, so someone comes to me with an idea, they want help from the beginning, we immediately talk through, okay, so who's your ideal client or who's your ideal listener? And we figure out, okay, then what's the title of the show? What do we need to do with the artwork to get those people interested from the beginning? But then you talk about the cool thing with podcasts is that they're more of an evergreen content asset. If you do, like in your first 5 or 10 episodes, the main stuff that you're ever going to talk about, what we would call pillar content, like the things you really want people to know about clouds. We'll use that as an example. The 5 different cloud types are the first 5 episodes. The funny thing about podcasts is that people they may discover you when Ted mentions the Cloud Podcast on episode 40 of the Cloud Podcast.
Correct.
They will go back to episode 1 and listen all the way through.
Absolutely.
Do you know Lou Mangello, the
Yes.
WDW
Yes.
Radio? So I'm a fan of Lou's podcast. It's part of the reason we moved down here was Disney and the family loving Disney. I discovered his show probably in the 300s of episodes. He's been doing it for almost 13 years now.
Wow.
I went back and listened from episode 1 all the way up to, a decade.
And
of
why did you do
podcasts.
that? You did it, I'm guessing, because it resonates with you. You
Because I
liked
connected
it, you
with
enjoyed
him because
you
I loved
connected.
it. I loved the stuff that he was talking about. It made me feel like I was at Disney World,
Yeah.
and I wanted to experience more of that. And that's what happens with the podcast. So first 5 or 10 episodes are really important. You want to lay out, here's the things. And then after that, you can kind of just go back and rehash some of those things. You can bring on, like I talk to people all the time about, well, should I do a show it's only by myself, or should I only do interviews, or should I have a focus group or panel type show every episode? And I start at the beginning and I say, well, what's your desired outcome? Are you looking to get clients? Are you looking to entertain people? Are you doing a Walking Dead fan podcast and you just want to get more people coming to your small Walking Dead con that you're doing in, October or something like that? You look at that desired outcome and then you say, okay, well, if it's about you and if it's about your business, say you're a real estate agent and you want people coming to you as a client, you want to mostly have the show be you, talking about what you know, or like for real estate agents, lawyers, those are good industries where you may not want to talk necessarily about the industry because that's going to be boring to most people, but you are usually a representative of the community. So if you're out in Winter Garden, you might want to be talking about all the things that are going on in Winter Garden, or the new restaurant that just opened, or this mechanic that you use that is really good and does great work.
So hear him on that. It's the content, right? So the content is so important, and if you bore them with the minutia of what you do all the time, people are going to tune out because they don't want to be sold. They want to be educated, informed, and they want to get to know you, and they feel like they have a relationship with you. If all you're doing is selling them and you're constantly in their face talking about, let me be your realtor, let me be your mortgage guy, let me be your podcaster, that is not the place you want to be in my experience.
And then on the other side of that, if you're a executive coach or something like that, or you're a public speaker in some industry, then you do want to talk about your industry, talk about the value, the knowledge that you have, and help people, give them value, educate them on certain things, because then when you do have that small call to action, say, hey, I'm opening up a new coaching group for the next 3 months, I'm going to have 10 people in, this is what we're going to cover, go to this URL to get more information, then you get clients. Because they've listened to you for 3 months talk about leadership, and they know, oh, okay, you have some really good thoughts about leadership, I want to work with you to learn more.
Correct. James, thank you for that. Appreciate you. All right, so I think before we start to wrap up, people have a perception that either they can do it on their own, and I would encourage 99% of the people who say that to me, that is not what's going to happen. But you one percenters, you do you. People have a perception that it is way outside of their budget. And I don't need you to talk about finances, but I'd like you to give them an idea of what that is. I think people would initially be afraid, not after today, but be afraid and go, well, gosh, he's the podcast guru. He's been doing it for 5 years, which is like 90 years in podcast world. And they would, but here's the deal. They're afraid of it, so they don't want to take that first step because they immediately think there's no way that I can afford to do this. So can you just talk about some of that? Because obviously he doesn't do things for free. We talk about this all the time on the show too. So the show is not for me to promote him to do free. It's to educate you, but for you to know that there is a cost to doing the things. Obviously, if you're an expert in it, you should get reimbursed or paid or compensated in a way that makes that. But people think it's outside their budget.
Yeah, I mean, you can go, like I said, you can go on Amazon and get a $65 microphone and you're good to go with a $20 a month plan on Libsyn. But that doesn't include any editing. So if you want to edit some stuff, which you can't do in video, that's another benefit of podcasting. You need to learn how to do that, or you need to hire someone. You could go on Fiverr and find someone for $25 an episode if you want someone like that. Who knows if they're reliable or not? I don't know. There's some great people on Fiverr. There's some people that disappear after 2 months. You never know.
So true.
When you get to someone like me, I'm operating for the most part with most clients on a retainer basis, where the motivation for working with me is that if they're laying out the $600 a month for that package, or the $1,400 a month for the package where we're basically doing all their marketing for their episodes and all the production and whatever, that's a motivation for them to stay consistent.
Correct.
Because they know, okay, this amount of money per month gets me 4 episodes. That's going to be an episode a week. I know that I need to do that for 6 months or a year to really start to see that momentum and that traction But that momentum and traction in the podcast world means that you're guaranteed to get that core audience, core client base of people that will buy whatever you tell them to buy, or hire you to do whatever you they need to do. I
mean, think about the money you're spending on other marketing. One of the things I talk about with people, especially let's talk real estate world, because I know you're familiar with that. They spend a lot of money on some interesting leads and things like that, but those are not organic leads. Those are leads that they're purchasing, and mortgage industry does the same thing. Imagine if you've got the content, you've got the wherewithal, and then you can hire a Danny. He didn't know I was going to promote this much, but I think it's so important to find the right person. That's why I love Danny, because he's definitely in that category. You're already spending a ton of money on stuff that's not driving you business, so just redirect it and make the commitment. That's the biggest part, the takeaway that I think. If you think that you're gonna spend XYZ amount of money, and then in 1 month you're gonna have so much money that you're paying for, you've got a yacht. I need you to really rethink how that looks, because you have to have the commitment, like anything. And Danny has obviously different packages. If it's not Danny, which I don't know why it wouldn't be, but let's say it's not Danny, you really need to do your research and vet them. All right, so we're out of time. We're past 25 minutes actually. We're going to share all of Danny's contact information, how you can reach out to him. He's accessible, right? So reach out to him. Don't be afraid. You think you have an idea? Run it by him. Send it to him. He's obviously a very humble, wonderful guy, and is creative. Obviously, he's a conductor and a singer. I don't know what's happening. All right, so we love to talk about mentors on the show, mentorship, super important. You were talking about a cool podcast that just was talking about that. I think it's so amazing. Share with us any mentors that you have had in your life that have made an impact.
Well, my main mentor that has brought me to this point is a man named Bill Hare. He is a Grammy-winning mix engineer, but he's the same way. He's one of those humble people. He's worked with humongous artists. He's out in the Bay Area, and in the early 80s, he was playing in bands that had guys that were in Journey and all the other big Bay Area rock groups that were out there then. And he's worked with some of the biggest engineers in the world and worked with some of the biggest artists in the a cappella world, and he never was unwilling to spend time to talk about something, to answer a question. Coming up in the world of engineering, you often either have to spend money to find out how somebody did something, or just figure it out on your own, because people guard their secrets with their lives.
They do.
Bill never did. And Bill was always there, always willing to hang out, always willing to invite you to come along to, hey, check out this festival, or go here, or come here with me and join me on this panel and we'll speak. So he's been the main one in my life.
I love it. All right. Real quick, what's the best way for them to find you? And we're going to share that later, but verbally, what's the best?
Well, the best way to hear more from me is to go onto your podcast app right now and search my name, Danny Ozment. You'll find my show, Podcast Strategies. And if you want to have a call with me, emeraldcitypro.com/call is the easiest way to get in touch.
All right. You're a joy to have on. Thank you. Thanks for sharing all that. Guys, I know you guys are interested because you messaged me a ton beforehand. So reach out to Danny. He's obviously not scary like you think all podcasters are, because it's a little intimidating, right? I mean, I think anybody.
Podcasters are really cool.
They're very cool.
And
There's
chill.
a cool. Yeah, chill's the
They're
best
used
word.
to sitting alone in a room by themselves talking to them.
And so they what do they want to talk about? Podcasts.
Yeah.
So they want to help you. They love your idea, or they might want to guide you a different way. Thanks for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you. We love you guys. We'll be back at 1:00. See you then. Mwah.